The massive crystal hall stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that spiraled around the central floor like a giant bowl. Their voices mixed together in a sound that bounced off the walls like ocean waves. Some clicked their claws on metal armrests while others made wet slapping sounds with tentacles. The air smelled of chemicals and gases that no human nose had ever experienced before. Marcus Reed stood in the middle of it all. His simple brown uniform looked plain and boring compared to the bright colors and strange shapes of the aliens around him. He kept his hands behind his back and his feet shoulder-width apart like he had learned in military training. The defendant. Circle where he stood was made of some kind of smooth, black stone that felt warm under his boots. Dot above him on a raised platform sat the 12 judges of the Galactic Tribunal. They were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they looked down at Marcus like he was an insect. The chief judge was a creature called Magistrate Thorn that looked like a walking crystal formation. It had 6 arms that moved like tree branches in the wind, and its body changed colors when it spoke. The laughter started when Marcus walked into the hall. It began as quiet chuckles from the back rows, but spread forward like a wave. Soon the entire assembly was making noise. The bug-like Vortani clicked their jaws together while the floating gas clouds called ethereals pulsed with bright flashes. Even the stone creatures known as granite lords vibrated with what passed for amusement among their kind. Marcus had expected this reaction. Earth's intelligence services had warned him that most alien species saw humans as primitive and weak. They had been traveling between stars for only 200 years, while some of these civilizations had been doing it for thousands. To them, a human was like a child trying to sit at the adult table. Magistrate Thorn raised one of its crystal arms, and the laughter slowly died down. When it spoke, its voice came through translation devices that hung from the ceiling like mechanical spiders. The words reached every corner of the massive hall at the same time. The defendant will state the plea of their species to the charges brought by the Galactic Hegemony, Thorn announced. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Marcus looked up at the judges without showing any emotion on his face. He had practiced this moment for months. Behind him he could hear thousands of aliens shifting in their seats and making quiet noises of anticipation. They wanted to see the human beg for mercy or make excuses. They expected him to deny everything and ask for a deal. The charges are unlawful expansion into contested space, disruption of established trade routes, and destruction of 3 hegemony patrol fleets, Thorn continued. How does your species plead? Marcus took a deep breath. The air in the hall tasted metallic and made his throat burn slightly. He had traveled 30 light years to get here, and everything depended on what he said next. Earth's future hung in the balance, and he was the only human allowed to speak for his entire species. Guilty, Marcus said in a clear voice that carried. Across the silent hall, the word hit the assembly like a physical blow. The laughter stopped completely and was replaced by shocked silence. Even the constant humming of the translation devices seemed to pause. Marcus could feel thousands of alien eyes staring at him in disbelief. Magistrate Thorn's crystal body flickered between different colors as it processed what it had just heard. Blue meant confusion while red showed anger. Right now, it was cycling through both colors rapidly like a broken light. You admit to the charges? Thorn asked. Its voice had changed pitch slightly, which the translation devices rendered as surprise. I admit that humanity performed the actions you have described, Marcus replied. But I request permission to provide context before you pass judgment. This caused another wave of shocked murmurs to ripple through the crowd. The Kelrani ambassador, a creature that looked like a giant slug with multiple eye stalks, slithered forward on its platform. This is unprecedented, it declared in a voice like bubbling mud. No species has ever simply admitted guilt to charges of this magnitude. A granite lord named Counselor Basalt spoke up from its position near the judges. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The defendant admits to destroying 3 of our battle cruisers with primitive weapons. This is an act of war, Marcus nodded slowly. I understand the severity of the charges. But if the tribunal will allow me to explain the circumstances, I believe you will understand why humanity had no choice but to act as we did." The laughter returned, but it was different now. Instead of dismissive amusement, it carried an edge of nervousness. The aliens were beginning to realize that something was not going according to their expectations. A human was supposed to be intimidated by their power and beg for mercy. Instead, this representative was speaking calmly and asking to explain himself. Magistrate Thorne consulted with the other judges in a series of rapid color changes and harmonic sounds that the translation devices could not interpret. Finally, it turned back to Marcus. "The tribunal will hear your explanation," Thorne announced. "But we warn you that admission of guilt typically results in immediate annexation of the offending species' territory and integration into the hegemony labor force." Marcus felt his heart beating faster but kept his expression neutral. "I understand the consequences, Magistrate. But I believe that once you hear what I have to say, you will understand that humanity acted not as aggressors, but as protectors." This statement caused another eruption of confused noise from the assembled delegates. The idea that a primitive species could protect the mighty galactic hegemony was absurd to them. They had fleets of ships that could destroy entire star systems, and armies of soldiers from 100 different worlds. Protectors? The ethereal delegate pulsed with what appeared to be indignation. "You speak of protection while admitting to unprovoked attacks on our forces." Marcus stepped forward slightly, causing several nearby aliens to instinctively move back. "The attacks were not unprovoked. They were necessary. Because your patrol fleets were already compromised. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the mechanical sounds of the hall's life support systems seemed to quiet." Marcus stood in the center of it all, knowing that his next words would either save humanity or doom it to slavery. "I am here to tell you that the galactic hegemony faces a threat that it does not yet understand," Marcus said, "and humanity may be the only species capable of stopping it." The crystal hall fell completely silent after Marcus spoke his final words. The thousands of alien beings that had been making noise moments before now sat frozen in their seats. Even the mechanical sounds of the air circulation system seemed muted. Marcus could feel the weight of their stares pressing down on him like a physical force. Magistrate Thorne's crystal body had turned a deep, purple color that the translation guide said meant intense concentration. The other judges were also showing signs of confusion and concern. Their various forms shifted and changed as they processed what the human had just claimed. "Explain this accusation immediately," Thorne demanded. Its voice carried a new edge that made the translation devices vibrate with harmonic overtones. Marcus reached into his uniform jacket and pulled out a small data crystal about the size of his thumb. It was made of a clear material that caught the light from the hall's illumination systems and threw rainbow patterns across the floor. He held it up so that everyone could see it clearly. "This contains sensor logs from our first encounter with your patrol fleet in the Kepler sector," Marcus said. "We initially approached with peaceful intentions to establish first contact as is standard human protocol when entering unknown systems." The Kelrani ambassador's eye stalks twisted toward each other in a gesture that meant skepticism. "Your primitive vessels approached our battle cruisers without permission or invitation. This is considered an act of aggression under galactic law." "We followed proper first contact procedures," Marcus replied calmly. "We broadcast on all standard frequencies, transmitted our species identification codes, and requested permission to establish diplomatic relations. Your lead vessel, the Hegemony, battlecruiser Dominion, responded with standard acknowledgement protocols." Counselor Basalt's massive stone form shifted slightly, causing small pebbles to fall from its surface. "Then why did you attack our ships instead of proceeding with diplomatic contact?" Marcus looked directly at the Granite Lord. "Because our deep space sensors detected something that your technology missed. The biosignatures from your ships were wrong." This statement caused a wave of confused murmurs to ripple through the assembly. The various alien species began talking among themselves in their native languages, creating a cacophony of clicks. whistles and gurgles that the translation devices could not handle all at once. Biosignatures? The ethereal delegate pulsed with rapid color changes. What relevance do the life signs of our crews have to your alleged protection of the hegemony? Marcus stepped closer to the center of the defendant circle. Everything. Because the crew of the Dominion had been dead for 3 months. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates leaped from their seats while others made loud noises of denial and outrage. The Vortani began clicking their claws on their armrests in rapid patterns while the gas form, ethereals, flashed with bright angry colors. Security forces moved to positions around the hall as the noise level rose to almost painful levels. Impossible! The Kelrani ambassador's voice rose above the din. The Dominion filed regular reports. We received status updates, patrol schedules, and crew evaluations on standard intervals. Marcus waited for the noise to die down before responding. Yes, you received reports, but not from the original crew. The entities that had taken control of your ship were very good at maintaining normal operations. They kept your schedules, filed your paperwork, and even simulated the personalities of your officers. But they could not hide from human bioscanners. Magistrate Thorne's crystal form was now cycling through multiple colors so rapidly that it looked like a rainbow prism. You claim that unknown entities took control of a hegemony battlecruiser without our knowledge? This is beyond belief. Marcus inserted the data crystal into a slot on the defendant platform. The hall's main display system activated and filled the air above him with a 3-dimensional hologram showing sensor readings from the human exploration ship Pathfinder. The assembled delegates watched in growing horror as the data revealed the truth. The hologram showed the hegemony battlecruiser Dominion hanging in space like a normal warship. But the biosignature readings told a different story. Where there should have been thousands of life signs showing active brain patterns, metabolic processes, and neural activity, there was nothing. The ship was filled with bodies that showed no signs of life. The entities controlling your ship made contact with ours, Marcus continued. They attempted to board the Pathfinder using what appeared to be standard diplomatic protocols. We barely managed to escape, but in those few minutes of contact we learned something crucial. The hologram changed to show recordings from inside the human ship. Alien figures in hegemony uniforms moved through the corridors, but their movements were wrong. They walked with perfect synchronization like marching soldiers. Their eyes stared straight ahead without blinking, and when they spoke their voices were identical in tone and pitch. They were not just controlling the bodies, Marcus said. They were learning from them. Every memory, every skill, every piece of knowledge that the original crew possessed was being absorbed and studied. The entities had access to your military codes, your ship specifications, and your operational procedures. The ethereal delegate pulsed with what appeared to be fear. If this is true, why did you not contact Hegemony Command immediately? Why did you attack our ships instead of warning us? Marcus turned to face the gas cloud directly. We tried. For 6 weeks we attempted to reach your leadership through standard diplomatic channels. Every message was intercepted. Every communication was altered or simply disappeared. The entities had infiltrated your communication network so completely that they were controlling the flow of information. Counselor Basalt's stone form trembled with what might have been rage. You are saying they had access to our communication systems? Not just access, Marcus corrected. Complete control. They had your command codes, your encryption keys, and your network protocols. The entities were not just reading your messages, they were writing them. The implications of this revelation sent another wave of shock through the assembly. If unknown, entities could control hegemony communications, then every order, every report, and every decision made by their leadership could have been compromised. The 3 ships we destroyed were not the only ones, Marcus continued. Our long-range sensors detected at least 17 other vessels showing the same biosignature anomalies. The entities were systematically taking control of your patrol fleets and using them to gather intelligence on the entire hegemony. Magistrate Thorn's crystal form had turned a deep red color indicating extreme agitation. You are claiming that a significant portion of our border patrol was compromised by these entities? I am claiming that your entire military structure was being studied and infiltrated from within, Marcus replied. The entities were learning your tactics, your capabilities, and your weaknesses. They were preparing for something much larger than just controlling a few patrol ships. The human activated another section of the data crystal and the hologram changed to show fleet movement patterns across multiple star systems. The image revealed a disturbing truth. The compromised ships were not patrolling randomly. They were positioning themselves in strategic locations that would allow them to strike at the heart of hegemony space. They were preparing for an invasion, Marcus said quietly, and they were going to use your own ships to do it. The hologram floating above Marcus showed a map of hegemony space with red dots marking the positions of compromised ships. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The entities had positioned their controlled vessels in a perfect formation to attack the most important worlds in the galaxy. Trade centers, military bases, and government planets were all within striking distance. The assembled delegates stared at the display in stunned silence. What had seemed like random patrol movements now revealed themselves as the careful positioning of an invasion force. The entities had been planning this for months while the hegemony remained completely unaware of the threat. We designated them the Collective, Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. Because that is what they are, a collective intelligence that absorbs the knowledge and capabilities of every species it encounters. They had been studying your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses for months. The Vortani delegate clicked, its mandibles in a rapid pattern that indicated extreme distress. How long have these entities been active in our space? Based on our analysis, the first ships were compromised approximately 4 months ago, Marcus replied. The process appears to be gradual. The entities take control of small patrol vessels first, then use them to approach larger ships. Each successful infiltration gives them access to more advanced technology and higher-level personnel. Magistrate Thorn's crystal form flickered between colors as it processed this information. But surely our command structure would have noticed something. Missing ships, failed communications, unusual behavior patterns, would they? Marcus asked. The collective is remarkably sophisticated. They maintain perfect copies of crew personalities and behavior patterns. They file reports on schedule, respond to communications appropriately, and even simulate the personal quirks of individual officers. Unless you know exactly what to look for, the infiltration is virtually undetectable. The human gestured too. The hologram, which now showed detailed biosignature readings from multiple ships. The only way to identify a compromised vessel is through advanced biological scanning. The entities can control the bodies, but they cannot replicate the complex neural patterns of living consciousness. A new voice spoke from the upper gallery. It belonged to an insectoid creature with metallic wings and compound eyes. Why should we believe any of this? You could have fabricated these readings to justify your unprovoked attacks. Marcus nodded as if he had expected this question, because the threat is not over. The collective is still out there, still learning, still adapting. And now that we have disrupted their infiltration of your patrol fleets, they will be looking for a new approach. The human reached into his uniform again and withdrew a small device about the size of a communicator. It had a smooth black surface, with a series of blue lights that pulsed in a steady rhythm. Several delegates moved back in their seats, thinking it might be a weapon. This is a collective detection array, Marcus announced. Human technology specifically designed to identify the biosignature disruptions that indicate entity infiltration. We have been developing and refining these devices since our first encounter with the collective. He placed the device on the floor in front of him where everyone could see it clearly. The blue lights continued their steady pulse for several seconds. Then suddenly they changed to red and began flashing rapidly. The device is detecting anomalous biosignatures in this chamber, Marcus said calmly. According to its readings, there are currently 17 compromised individuals present in this assembly. The tribunal exploded into chaos. Delegates leaped from their seats and began pointing at each other while security forces moved to surround the hall. The various alien species made loud noises of fear and anger as they tried to identify which members of their delegations might be controlled by the entities. "This is impossible." The Kelrani ambassador's eye stalks twisted in all directions. "We would know if our people were compromised, would you?" Marcus asked. "The collective has been studying this tribunal for months. They know your political structures, your decision-making processes, and your security protocols. They have been preparing for this moment, knowing that eventually someone would discover their infiltration." The detection device continued flashing, red as it identified the locations of the compromised individuals. The readings showed that the entities had infiltrated delegations from at least 6 different species. Some of the most powerful governments in the galaxy had been sending controlled representatives to the tribunal without knowing it. Magistrate Thorne's crystal form was now pure white, indicating a state of emergency decision-making. Which specific individuals are compromised? Does it matter? Marcus replied. The collective has already achieved its primary objective. They have learned everything they need to know about your government, your military capabilities, and your decision-making processes. Even if we identify and remove every compromised individual in this chamber, the damage has been done. The human stepped forward, causing the detection device to pulse more rapidly. The entities that were controlling your patrol ships transmitted everything they learned back to the main collective. Ship specifications, weapon capabilities, shield frequencies, and tactical doctrines. They know exactly how to fight your forces. Counselor Basalt's massive stone form settled with a sound like an avalanche. "Then we are already defeated." "Not necessarily," Marcus said. "Humanity has been fighting the collective for over a year. We have learned their tactics, developed countermeasures, and created technologies specifically designed to combat their infiltration. We can teach you to defend yourselves." The ethereal delegate pulsed with rapid color changes. "What do you want in return for this knowledge?" Marcus looked up at the assembled judges. "What humanity has always wanted. The right to exist as a free species. The right to explore the galaxy without interference. The right to make our own choices about our future." The human gestured to the chaos around them. "Today you have learned that sometimes the primitive species can see threats that the advanced civilizations miss. Sometimes the newcomers have solutions that the established powers need." Magistrate Thorne's form shifted to a deep blue, indicating serious consideration. "You are proposing an alliance between humanity and the hegemony." "I am proposing survival," Marcus corrected. "The collective does not seek to conquer in the traditional sense. They seek to absorb, to consume, to become every species they encounter. They have already begun infiltrating other galactic powers. Beyond the hegemony, this is just the beginning." The detection device gave a sharp beep and its lights changed to yellow. "The compromised individuals are leaving," Marcus observed. "The collective knows that their infiltration has been discovered, and they are withdrawing their controlled agents." Around the hall, 17 delegates from various species suddenly stood up and began walking toward the exits. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, and their faces showed no expression. Security forces moved to intercept them, but Marcus held up a hand. "Let them go," he said. "Those bodies are just empty shells now. The entities have already extracted everything useful and abandoned them. The real consciousness of those individuals is gone." The synchronized figures reached the exits and disappeared into the corridors beyond. The detection device's lights faded back to blue, indicating that the immediate threat had passed. But the damage was done. The collective now had detailed intelligence on the galaxy's most powerful government. "The next phase of their plan will begin soon," Marcus warned. "They will use everything they have learned to strike at the heart of galactic civilization. Unless we work together, every species in this galaxy will face the same fate as those." 17 delegates? The tribunal sat in stunned silence as the full scope of the threat became clear. The charges against humanity suddenly seemed not just irrelevant but backwards. The species they had come to judge had instead revealed a danger that threatened their very existence. The great hall of the Galactic Tribunal had never been so quiet. The thousands of delegates who had been laughing at humanity just an hour ago now sat in stunned silence. The holographic displays still showed the evidence of the collective's infiltration while the detection device on the floor continued its steady blue pulse. Marcus stood in the center of it all, watching as the full impact of his revelations sank in. The aliens around him were beginning to understand that their entire civilization was under threat from an enemy they had never seen coming. The primitive humans had discovered something that all their advanced technology had missed. "How long do we have?" Magistrate Thorne asked. Its crystal form had shifted to a pale green color, indicating fear mixed with determination. "Based on their previous patterns, the collective will launch their main assault within the next few months," Marcus replied. "They prefer to strike when their target is unprepared and disorganized. The discovery of their infiltration here will accelerate their timeline." The ethereal delegate pulsed with rapid color changes. "What form will this assault take?" Marcus activated another section of his data crystal. The hologram changed to show a detailed analysis of collective attack patterns based on human observations. The display revealed a sophisticated strategy that combined infiltration, technological subversion, and psychological warfare. They begin with communication disruption, Marcus explained. The collective will use their knowledge of your network protocols to shut down or corrupt your information systems. Military commands will be blocked, civilian communications will be jammed, and government coordination will become impossible. The Vortani delegate clicked its mandibles in distress. "Our entire civilization depends on instantaneous communication across thousands of star systems, which is exactly why they target it first," Marcus said. "Once your communications are down, the collective will begin the second phase. They will use their controlled ships to attack key infrastructure targets, while simultaneously broadcasting false information to create confusion and panic." The hologram showed simulated attacks on space stations, orbital platforms, and planetary defense systems. The strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. By using captured hegemony vessels, the collective could approach their targets without raising suspicion until it was too late. "The third phase is the most dangerous," Marcus continued. "The collective will begin mass infiltration of population centers. They will use their absorbed knowledge to impersonate government officials, military leaders, and civilian authorities. Within days, they will have effective control of entire worlds." Counselor Basalt's massive form trembled with rage. "How do we fight an enemy that can become anyone? With technology and tactics specifically designed to counter their abilities," Marcus replied. "Humanity has been developing these countermeasures for the past year. We have created detection networks, communication systems that cannot be easily compromised, and weapons that can disrupt their control mechanisms." The human gestured to the detection device on the floor. "Every human ship and facility is now equipped with these scanners. We can identify compromised individuals within minutes of their arrival. We have also developed new encryption protocols that the collective cannot crack using absorbed knowledge." The Kelrani ambassador's eye stalks twisted toward Marcus. "But surely they will adapt to your countermeasures. If they are as intelligent as you claim, they will find ways around your defenses." "They are already trying," Marcus admitted. "The collective learns from every encounter. But humanity has one advantage that they did not expect. We think differently than most species." This statement caused confused murmurs throughout the assembly. The aliens were not sure what the human meant by thinking differently. "Most galactic civilizations develop along similar patterns," Marcus explained. "They create highly organized societies with complex hierarchies and sophisticated technologies. The collective is very good at understanding and infiltrating these types of systems because they are predictable." The human smiled slightly. "Humans are not predictable. We are chaotic, illogical, and often completely irrational. We make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. We take risks that no sane species would consider. The collective has trouble understanding us because we do not follow the patterns they expect. Magistrate Thorne's form flickered with what might have been amusement. You are saying that human irrationality is a military advantage? I am saying that human unpredictability makes us harder to infiltrate and control, Marcus replied. The collective relies on understanding their targets in order to manipulate them. When they cannot predict our behavior, their strategies become less effective. The human activated the final section of his data crystal. The hologram changed to show a detailed battle plan for defending against the collective assault. The strategy involved coordinated strikes by human and hegemony forces, the deployment of detection networks throughout inhabited space, and the establishment of secure communication channels that could not be compromised. This is our proposal, Marcus said. A full alliance between humanity and the hegemony to combat the collective threat. We will share our technology and tactical knowledge in exchange for access to your industrial capacity and military resources. The ethereal delegate pulsed with skepticism. Why should we trust you? How do we know that this is not some elaborate scheme to gain power within the hegemony? Because the alternative is extinction, Marcus replied bluntly. The collective does not negotiate, does not compromise, and does not show mercy. They will absorb every species in this galaxy unless we work together to stop them. The human picked up the detection device and held it so everyone could see it clearly. This device is not just a scanner. It is also a communicator that connects to our defense network. Right now it is receiving reports from human outposts throughout the galaxy. The device suddenly began flashing red and emitting a high-pitched beep. Marcus looked at the display and his expression became grim. The collective has begun their assault, he announced. 3 hegemony border worlds have gone silent. In the past hour, long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in the outer rim. The tribunal erupted in panic as delegates began receiving emergency communications from their home worlds. The various alien species made loud noises of fear and confusion as reports of attacks began flooding in from across the galaxy. The war has started, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the chaos. The only question now is whether we will fight together or die separately. Magistrate Thorne's crystal form turned pure white as it made an emergency decision. The tribunal declares a state of galactic emergency. All charges against humanity are dismissed. We formally request an immediate military alliance with the human species, Marcus nodded gravely. Alliance accepted. But we need to act fast. The collective has spent months learning your weaknesses, and they will exploit every advantage they can find. The human looked around the hall at the assembled delegates. The species that you dismissed as primitive may be your only hope for survival. I suggest you start listening very carefully to what we have to say. The detection device continued beeping urgently as more reports of collective attacks reached the tribunal. The galaxy was under assault and humanity had just become its primary defender. The laughter had died completely, replaced by the grim reality of a war that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The crystal hall that had been filled with laughter now buzzed with urgent activity. Emergency communication systems crackled to life as delegates received reports from their homeworlds. The holographic displays showed a galaxy under attack as red warning symbols appeared across the star map. The collective had begun their assault, and it was happening faster than anyone had expected. Marcus stood at the center of the chaos, his detection device now connected to the tribunal's main communication network. The small device was relaying real-time intelligence from human outposts throughout the galaxy, providing the first accurate picture of the collective's invasion strategy. 17 star systems have gone dark in the past 2 hours, Marcus reported. The collective is targeting communication hubs and government centers first. They are trying to blind your leadership before launching the main assault. Magistrate. Thorne's crystal form pulsed with rapid color changes as it processed incoming data. Our border fleets are reporting massive enemy formations approaching from multiple vectors. The ships appear to be modified versions of our own vessels. They are using the technology they absorbed from your captured crews, Marcus explained. The collective has had months to study your ship designs and weapon systems. They know exactly how to fight your forces. The Kelrani ambassador's eye stalks twisted frantically as it received updates from its homeworld. The capital planet of Kelros Prime is under attack. The assault ships are broadcasting hegemony identification codes and using proper military protocols. Because they learned those codes from your own people, Marcus said grimly. The collective is using your own procedures against you. Your defense systems will not recognize them as hostile until it is too late. Counselor Basalt's massive form shuddered with rage. How do we fight an enemy that knows all our secrets? By changing the rules of engagement, Marcus replied. Humanity has developed new tactics specifically designed to counter the collective's advantages. We can teach your forces to fight in ways that the entities cannot predict or counter. The human activated his data crystal one final time. The hologram showed detailed schematics for new weapon systems, shield configurations, and tactical formations that had been developed by human military scientists. The technology was unlike anything the hegemony had ever seen. These are quantum disruption weapons, Marcus explained. They interfere with the neural control mechanisms that the collective uses to operate captured bodies. A single shot can free dozens of controlled individuals without causing permanent harm. The ethereal delegate pulsed with interest. You can reverse the infiltration process? In most cases, yes, Marcus confirmed. The collective's control is sophisticated but not permanent. If we can disrupt the neural interface quickly enough, the original consciousness can be restored. We have already freed hundreds of captured humans using this technology. The Vortani delegate clicked its mandibles in a rapid pattern. How long will it take to manufacture these weapons in sufficient quantities? That depends on how much industrial capacity the hegemony is willing to commit, Marcus said. If we can coordinate our production efforts, we can have the first weapons ready within weeks. But we need access to your manufacturing facilities and raw materials. Magistrate Thorne's form shifted to a deep blue, indicating serious consideration. What else do you require for this alliance? Marcus looked around the hall at the assembled delegates. Complete technological exchange. Humanity will share everything. We have learned about fighting the collective in return for access to your advanced sciences and manufacturing capabilities. The human gestured to the star map showing the ongoing attacks. We also need political integration. The collective exploits divisions between species and governments. If we are going to defeat them, we need to present a united front. You are asking for full membership in the hegemony, Counselor Basalt observed. I am asking for survival, Marcus corrected. The collective does not care about your political boundaries or species differences. They will absorb everyone equally. Our only chance is to work together as one unified force. The detection device suddenly gave a sharp beep and its display showed new information. Marcus read the data with growing concern. The collective has launched a direct assault on Earth, he announced. They are using captured hegemony vessels to attack our homeworld. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The entities were not just attacking the hegemony. They were targeting humanity as well, trying to eliminate the only species that had proven capable of fighting them. Effectively, my government needs to know about this alliance immediately, Marcus said. Earth's defense forces are preparing for a siege, but they need to coordinate with hegemony fleets in the area. Magistrate Thorne's crystal form turned pure white as it made a formal declaration. By the authority of the Galactic Tribunal, humanity is granted full membership in the hegemony with all rights and privileges. The Sol System and all human colonies are now under the protection of the Galactic Fleet. The human nodded gravely. And the hegemony is now under the protection of humanity. We will share our knowledge freely and fight alongside you against the collective threat. Marcus picked up his detection device and prepared to leave. I need to return to coordinate the defense of Earth, but first I want to leave you with something to think about. The human looked around the hall at the thousands of alien beings who had been laughing at humanity just hours before. Today, You learned that the species you considered primitive had capabilities that your advanced civilizations lacked. You discovered that sometimes the newcomers see threats that the established powers miss. He walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. The collective is not the only threat facing this galaxy. There are other dangers out there that you have not yet encountered. Other challenges that will require new ways of thinking and new approaches to solve. Marcus smiled slightly. Humanity may be young and chaotic, but we are also adaptable and creative. We see possibilities where others see only problems. We find solutions where others see only obstacles. The human reached the exit and looked back one final time. The galaxy is about to change in ways that none of us can imagine. The old order is ending and something new is beginning. The question is whether we will face that future together or separately. Marcus Reed walked out of the tribunal hall, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed by his words. The laughter had died completely, replaced by the grim determination of species united in common cause. The war against the collective had begun, and humanity was no longer the defendant but the defender of galactic civilization. The primitive species from Sol had taught the galaxy its most important lesson. Sometimes survival requires listening to the voices that others dismiss. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the most unexpected sources. And sometimes the species that seems weakest proves to be the strongest when it matters most. The Galactic Tribunal had laughed at the human. But when humanity began to speak, the laughter turned to respect, fear turned to hope, and judgment turned to alliance. The galaxy would never be the same again.